Made, I think, a lot of fair points at the public hearing about our tax abatements and the process we have. I think he overstated some things that are significant. One is he mentioned the people out there who care about this and are opposed to the way we do this, and he and Mr. Kolb may represent some of those people in this community. And it's just an extremely small number of citizens who've expressed an opinion that the way we have historically implemented our policy in this process is bothersome in the least. That can be from a lot of factors, but the suggestion that the council, that the city has heard an outcry against tax abatements is not a representation of fact. Second, and more importantly, was completely erroneous, is the suggestion by Mr. Garvin, or the implication that we don't have a policy. We have a very clear policy. You might not like it, you can fairly critique it. I thought he made a lot of fine points for consideration, but we have a policy. It's a very clearly laid out, and anybody who wants to see the City of Fort Wayne's policy can look at the City of Fort Wayne Code of Ordinances. They can further find how that is implemented by going to our Community Development Office. That policy and the philosophy behind it has been fairly broadly applied to businesses. The philosophy, I think, is one that strikes at the heart of most of the people of this community as being the right one, which is to try to keep government and individuals and bureaucrats within government out of economic development. And so we applied the ability for businesses who make investments of note in our community to get an abatement, and then we get out of the way. That is, I think, kind of a prevailing attitude and a conservative approach to governance in society. The suggestion that we should take tax abatements and structure them so that they're encouraging development geographically into downtown is really a radical departure from the history of how we have applied tax abatements. Maybe it's the right one, but it's a radical departure to have that much government influence into where business is going to be and not be. Other communities have that across the country and have that much more influence, but that is a really big idea and a significant departure from how we've done it. The suggestion that we should limit it to the type of business in any fashion. Again, we do have some limitations in place. Those are fairly limited in nature. We could change those, but that's our policy and that's how it's applied. One of the things that happens that if you build in more discretion is you take away certitude for businesses. And sometimes, particularly in bigger projects, receiving the tax abatement or not has a significant impact on whether the development goes forward at all, whether it's affordable. The size of the abatement can be that significant, or whether they can afford the scope of the investment if they get the abatement or not. And so when you build in more discretion into a tax abatement policy, you are slowing down business. You are slowing economic development. And that is rarely, from the business side of things, the investment side of things, a good thing. And so I would caution everyone to tread very lightly, and I think it's well worth the significant look into this. I think this is the third time that council members have taken it up, as well as the administration, since in my 9 years on council, taking up tax abatement policy. It is something that is continually looked at, but there hasn't yet been any specific proposal which suggests that we should make the type of radical departure that at least some of the comments suggested. Maybe that's a better idea, but it's going to take a lot of work, I think, to get the community there and get the decision makers there.
I just